All right, some of the knowledge that you learned in the previous video, which was OPCD sand or bunkers, is going to be applicable here to water bases. They're somewhat similar. If you remember, bunkers have an inner blend and an outer blend, and so do water bases. So we have similar functionality or enhancements to them and what we can do and manipulate inside of Blender. So let's go into Blender, and here I have my water body. And you should recall from the theory all the way back to Inkscape that like bunkers, water also has an inner blend, okay, this area right here. Zoom in a little bit more for you. This area right here is our inner and here is our outer. Okay, so we can manipulate those just like we do with bunkers. And we do that in the, what do you would think? Well, yes, the water base section here, right? And just like water bases, we can work on all of our water bases or we can do selected. Now, I think I only have one water base so far put in this one. So this one's a little bit harder to experiment with because you typically don't have as many water bodies on your course. But you could always make up a few and just send them through. You could always go back to Inkscape, add a few fictitious water bodies to your course and play with them. I would suggest you do that. It's the best way to learn. So first of all, let's go here. I'm going to do, I'm going to do convex here. And again, lip depth, inner depth, it's going to be very similar. Actually, it's not very similar. It's the exact same functionality of what we talked with inside of our bunkers. So let me zoom in here and we can just do it to show you again. Which is, let's see here, we can do, let's see, we got a 0.5 and 1 meter. So let's just apply this and see what happens. So you can see that this would be a water body with a pretty steep bank, okay? So this 0.1, the 0.05 would be this lip depth right here at the top. And then we made this 1 meter. You might say, well, it's a water body. I want to make it as deep as I want. Things you will need to learn inside of Unity later on, this is why you need to experiment, is that when you add water to this, okay, the water plane, which is going to be the actual water inside the lake, which will be on the kind of on top and on this, it's somewhat translucent. So you'll be able to see the water base, okay, this underneath here, you'll be able to actually see that a little bit. So if you have a water body that is like algae looking or green, if you make this too deep, you might not be able to see that green looking base under it or the mud or the muck. Now that might be desirable. Very deep water bodies that have deep blues and deep greens, you might want this pretty deep so that you're actually seeing the water color itself versus the base. But on the other hand, I would say for the most part, if you want to be able to see this water base pretty clearly, you got to keep this less than half a meter. So let me come back up here, conform my meshes, conform this water body again, get it back up here, and I'm going to change this to 0.5. And then I'm going to apply that. And you can see now that it's only 0.5 meters. However, it is still shaped in here. Now, maybe you dug it out inside of Unity, and that's completely fine. But you do not need to do that for water bodies. I'll have to update those videos at some point, but you do not need to dig out Unity, although it's a still good exercise. You could do it with RAM. And I could flatten this base. So I hit flatten, and now I have a very structured water body here with a 0.5 meter side and a half meter deep, and it's completely flat. That might be what you're looking for, because this is going to be, the thing is, no variety to me in nature is a bad thing. Nature has a lot of variety. I don't like something that's structured like this. So there are different ways. I typically would not flatten a water base. You can see here there's some different depths. I think that's going to look much better when you put translucent water on top of here. Again, might change for you. So that's the depth here. And again, this is something I would highly recommend. Experience and experimentation is going to help you out in the long run. And we do have paint vertex options for this as well. So clean is what we have here, which is going to give you this green blend, which might be like a little dirt, and then it's going to blend into the water base. Depending where you put your water plane, which we'll talk about later on how to do that, you might see this green material, whatever gets assigned there, or you might not, depending on the height of that. You can adjust that. If you do a wet look, okay, it's going to push that green further in, okay? Might be what you're looking for. Again, experimentation is the best way to go. And the hazard line 3DG is another approach. And now let me see, I'm going to show you the hazard line 3DG, I'm going to reconform this guy. And I'm only going to drop this by like 0.1. And I'm going to apply that so you can see. And I'm going to make this hazard line 3DG. And now I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. So what's going on here? Well, what this did, it added a strip around here, okay, that you can apply to your 3DG. There's some courses where they do the paint line, the hazard line, and essentially what you can do is you can use this to manipulate that, right? So now we have this blue that comes out here, and essentially we can use this, I think it's the red channel, or it might be actually, it might be the green channel, can be applied to your 3D grass, and you can make it like red, like someone spray painted the hazard line around. Now this doesn't necessarily look good to me with this lip here because you don't, it's typically on a flat area. And I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't experimented with this very much and haven't used it. But it's something that you could use to as a hazard line for your 3D grass. But I think you would probably need to, let's see, conform this. This might look a little bit better, it being flat here, and then this is going to have to be maybe only drop your, let's see, make this 0. And this is a perfect example of experimenting, right? And change this to maybe 0.2. Let me apply that. Yes, and then I think, again, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit more, but you get the idea here is there's another channel here which could then be applied to, I know we haven't talked about 3D grass, but 3D grass can get specific colors as well through these channels. So basically that is water bodies, water bases.